Welcome to the tennis world, wherever you are tuning in from. Welcome back to the channel. We are live, and we are reeling from what can only be described as one of the most electric, bipolar, and psychologically complex matches we have seen in the early rounds of a Grand Slam in years. If you are just joining us, you have missed a war. You have missed a collision of worlds. We are talking about the Australian Open 2026. First round. We are talking about the pride of the Philippines, Alexandra EALA, taking on the American powerhouse, Alicia Parks. The title of this video is not clickbait. The tennis world is shocked, not just by the result, but by the manner in which it happened. We just witnessed a match that had everything. A 6-0 bagel first set that looked like a coronation, a crowd that sounded more like a World Cup football final than a tennis match, and a comeback so gritty, so mentally fortified, that it might just define the rest of Alicia Parks' career. Let's set the scene before we even touch the ball. Melbourne Park. Court 6. Usually, Court 6 is a transit station, a place where players grind out matches in relative obscurity. Not today. Today, Court 6 was Manila. Today, Court 6 was the epicenter of Asian tennis hope. The queues? They were insane. Reports coming in from the ground stated that the line to get into the specific court stretched all the way back to the Rod Laver Arena precinct. Thousands of fans, draped in the red, blue, and yellow of the Philippine flag, chanting, "Alex! Alex! Alex!" hours before the first ball was struck. We are talking about Alexandra EALA, the 20-year-old sensation who has had a meteoric rise over the last 12 months. Remember Miami? Remember her beating the world number 2, Iga Swiatek? That was the moment EALA arrived. She came into this match not just as a player, but as a symbol. The first Filipina to ever crack the top 50. The weight of a nation, literally an entire archipelago, was on her shoulders. And on the other side of the net, Alicia Parks, the American, a player with weapons that can take the racket out of your hand, but a player who has struggled with consistency, struggled to string wins together, and came into this match ranked number 100 in the world. A dangerous floater, but an underdog on paper against the informed EALA. So what happened? In the first 34 minutes, we saw a slaughter. Alexandra EALA came out of the gates like a woman possessed. She fed off that crowd energy, that deafening roar every time she won a point, and she dismantled Parks. It was surgical. It was precise. It was a 6-0 first set. A bagel in a Grand Slam. Do you understand how rare that is between two players of this caliber? EALA looked unstoppable. Parks looked lost, drowning in the noise, unable to find the court, spraying errors, looking at her box with that vacant stare of a player who wants to be anywhere else but there. At that moment, if you were watching, you would have bet your house on EALA winning in straight sets. The narrative was written. The coronation was underway. The Filipino fans were already celebrating. But tennis is the cruelest sport on earth because there is no clock. You cannot run out the time. You have to win the last point. And what Alicia Parks did in the second and third sets is the story we need to tell today. This wasn't just a turnaround. It was a resurrection. Parks didn't just adjust her game. She adjusted her soul. She shut out the noise. She shut out the thousands of people cheering for her to double fault. She went into what she calls the zone. And suddenly, the serve arrived. The 120-mile-per-hour bomb started landing. The aces started flowing, 12 of them in total. The unforced errors disappeared, replaced by winners that scorched the lines. We watched the momentum shift, not gradually, but violently. Parks took the second set 6-3. Then, with the crowd trying to will EALA back into it, Parks broke the young star's spirit in the third, taking it 6-2. From 0-6 down, looking dead in the water, to a 0-6, 6-3, 6-2 victory. Alicia Parks has silenced the roar. She has broken the hearts of millions of Filipino fans. But in doing so, she has earned the respect of the entire sporting world. This wasn't just a match. It was a psychological thriller. How does a 20-year-old like EALA handle the pressure of being a national icon when things start to go wrong? How does a player like Parks, known for being volatile, find a zen-like focus to overcome a hostile crowd? We're going to dive deep into every game, every mental shift, and every tactical adjustment. We're going to look at the numbers, the quotes from the press conference, and what this means for the rest of the Australian Open. EALA is out of the singles, but her journey is far from over. Parks is into the second round to face Karolina Machova, and suddenly, she looks like a threat to everyone. Buckle up. We are about to break down the fight for the future. This is a deep dive. Right? Let's get into the weeds. We need to deconstruct this match piece by piece because the scoreline, 0-6, 6-3, 6-2, tells you what happened, but it doesn't tell you how or why. To understand this result, we have to understand the context of the players entering this tournament. The context: two paths crossing. Let's start with Alexandra EALA. We have to acknowledge the massive hype train that pulled into Melbourne this week. 2025 was her breakout year. We mentioned the Miami win over Swiatek, but it was more than that. She reached the finals at Eastbourne. She won her first major match at the U.S. Open against Clara Towson. She entered this match ranked world number 49. For a 20-year-old from a country with limited tennis infrastructure, that is a miraculous achievement. She is a lefty, which already give her a tactical advantage, and her game is built on gritty baseline work, early timing, and a fighting spirit that usually wears opponents down. Then you have Alicia Parks. The American journey has been a roller coaster. She has been inside the top 50. She has fallen out. She is arguably the biggest serve on the women's tour when it lands. But the knock on Parks has always been consistency and shot selection. She hits the ball huge, but she misses huge. Coming into Melbourne ranked 100, she was fighting for her survival on the main tour. A loss here drops her further. A win reignites her season. Set 1. The EALA Hurricane 6-0. The match began, and the first thing that hit you was the noise. The football-style atmosphere, described by reporters on the ground, was not an exaggeration. Flags were everywhere. The chanting was constant. For Parks, this must have felt like an away game in the Davis Cup, not a neutral Grand Slam court. The first game was a microcosm of the first set. It lasted nearly 10 minutes. 20 points played. EALA had break point after break point. Parks was tight. She was serving huge, but then double faulting. She was missing smash volleys, easy putaways sailing long. You could see the nerves. EALA, conversely, was locked in. She wasn't overhitting. She was making Parks play one more ball. EALA finally got the break, and the stadium erupted. That noise shattered Parks. For the next 30 minutes, Alicia Parks was a spectator in her own match. EALA held serve comfortably. Then she broke again. And again. EALA's lefty forehand was finding the corners, moving Parks side to side, exposing the Americans' movement. Parks was trying to end points too quickly, going for 100-mile-per-hour winners from defensive positions and missing by feet. The set ended 6-0 in 34 minutes. A bagel. At this point, the commentary box was discussing whether Parks was injured. Was she sick? No, she was just overwhelmed. The tactical mismatch was glaring. EALA's consistency and the crowd's hostility were suffocating Parks' power. The pivot, the locker room reset. What happens in the mind of a player who just lost 6-0 on a global stage? Most players crumble. They tank the second set and go home. Alicia Parks did something different. In her post-match interview, Parks revealed the key. She said, "I was expecting the crowd, but I also wasn't. It was very difficult. I just kept telling myself to stay in the zone." She realized that she was fighting two opponents, EALA and the crowd. She couldn't beat the crowd, so she had to ignore them. She stopped reacting to the cheers for her errors. She stopped looking at the stands. She put her head down. Set 2. The serve awakens 3-6. The second set began, and immediately the dynamic shifted. Parks held serve. A simple hold, but it was massive. It stopped the bleeding. Then the weapon arrived. The Alicia Parks serve is a kinetic marvel. When she finds a rhythm, it is virtually unreturnable. In the first set, her first serve percentage was abysmal. In the second set, she started hitting her spots. We are talking 190 kilometers per hour. 200 kilometers per hour serves out wide and down the tee. EALA, who had been standing on the baseline dictating points, was suddenly pushed back. Parks wasn't letting EALA play. Ace, service winner. Ace, short return, forehand winner. The points became shorter. This favored Parks. EALA thrives in rhythm. Parks thrives in chaos and power. Parks broke early to go up 3-0. The crowd tried to get loud again, sensing the danger. EALA, to her credit, fought back. She broke back to level it at 3-3. At this moment, it felt like the first set might repeat. EALA had the momentum. The crowd was screaming, "Let's go, Alex." But this is where the match was won. At 3-3, Parks didn't panic. She held serve with authority. Then, at 4-3, she unleashed a barrage of returns that caught EALA off guard. EALA's serve, which is a kick serve and not a power serve, sat up just enough for Parks to crush it. Parks broke for 5-3. Serving for the set, Parks didn't blink. She closed it out 6-3. One set all. The coronation was canceled. We had a dogfight. Set 3. The domination 2-6. Going into the decider, the momentum was entirely with the American. You could see it in the body language. EALA was looking at her box, looking for answers. Her shoulders were slightly slumped. The crowd was still loud, but there was a tone of anxiety in the cheers. They knew. Parks, on the other hand, was bouncing on her toes. She had figured it out. Hit hard, hit center, don't miss. Parks broke immediately in the third set. 2-0. EALA was now the one spraying errors. The pressure of the moment, the debut pressure, seemed to finally catch up to her. When you're the future of a nation and you are up 6-0, losing feels impossible. When you're suddenly down a break in the third, the weight of that expectation becomes a crushing physical force. EALA managed to hold a couple of times, showing that trademark grit. She saved break points to keep it respectable, but she could not touch the Parks serve. Alicia Parks ended the match with 12 aces, and I would wager half of them came in this final set. She was winning her service games in 60 seconds. EALA was working for 10 minutes just to hold. The climax came with EALA serving to stay in the match. Parks was relentless. She stepped inside the baseline. She hit a forehand winner that clocked at blistering speed. Match point. EALA saved 2 match points. Pure heart. The crowd roared one last time, a desperate plea for a miracle. But on the third match point, Parks hit a deeper turn. EALA was forced onto her back foot, and Parks crushed a forehand winner. Game, set, match. Alicia Parks. The aftermath and the quotes. The handshake was respectful, but the story was a reaction. Parks turned to the crowd that had been against her for 2 hours, and gave a small, satisfied nod. In her on-court interview, she was candid. She laughed when asked about the atmosphere. "I don't know what my record is with crowds against me," she said. "It definitely puts a fire on me. I would say I'm good when the crowds are against me." That is a quote of a champion in the making, using the hostility as fuel. And EALA? Heartbreaking. She stayed on court. This is important to note. Usually, the loser packs their bag and sprints to the tunnel. EALA stayed. She signed autographs for the Filipino fans who had queued for hours. She took selfies. In her press conference, she was graciousness personified. "It was so heartwarming," she said. "I felt so loved. That makes the loss harder. But Alicia played really well." Tactical breakdown. Why Parks won. First strike tennis. In the second and third sets, Parks reduced the rally length. She had let EALA get into those 15 to 20 shot exchanges where EALA's lefty spin causes damage. It was serve dash, return dash, winner/error. The mental shield. Parks disassociated from the environment. She played the ball, not the occasion. The serve. You cannot overstate 12 aces in a women's singles match. That is 3 free games. In a tight third set, that is the difference between winning and losing. Why EALA lost. Passive play in set 2. After winning 6-0, EALA took her foot off the gas slightly. She waited for Parks to miss. When Parks stopped missing, EALA didn't have a plan B to inject pace. The second serve, EALA's second serve, was attackable. Parks feasted on it in the deciding set. The burden. It is impossible to calculate, but the mental fatigue of carrying that crowd energy must have been exhausting. So where do we go from here? What does this result mean for the landscape of women's tennis in 2026? For Alicia Parks, this is massive. This is a career-stabilizing win. She defends her points. She stays in the top 100 discussion. But more importantly, she proved that she has the mental resilience to win ugly, to win hostile, and to problem-solve in real time. She now faces Karolina Muchova, the 19th seed, in the second round. Muchova is a brilliant, crafty player, but she struggles with pace. If Parks brings this version of her serve, the version we saw in sets 2 and 3, she can beat Muchova. Alicia Parks is a player no one wants to see in their bracket right now. She is a chaos agent, and today, chaos won. For Alexander EALA, the narrative is different, but not tragic. Yes, this stings. To win a set 6-0 and lose the match is one of the most painful ways to exit a Grand Slam. It will keep her up tonight. But let's look at the bigger picture. She is 20 years old. She is ranked 49 in the world. She is playing her first full year as a legitimate tour regular. This match was a lesson. It was a lesson in closing. It was a lesson in how to handle an opponent who changes tactics mid-match. You cannot buy that experience. You have to live through the pain of it. The fact that she stayed to sign autographs, the fact that she handled the press with such maturity, shows that she has the temperament of a long-term star. She is not a flash in the pan. The Filipino fans should not be discouraged. They should be proud. They have a player who belongs on this stage. The results will come. The second week, runs will come. Today was just a stumbling block on a very long ascent. And let's not forget, EALA is still in the doubles draw. She will take this frustration out on the ball in the doubles court. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a deep run there. Final thoughts. This match, EALA versus Parks, was a perfect advertisement for the depth of the WTA Tour. We talk so much about the Big Three or the top 10, but the quality of tennis between the world number 49 and the world number 100 was staggering. The drama was unmatched. It reminds us why we watch this sport. We watch for the bagel that turns into a nightmare. We watch for the underdog who finds a serve when they can't breathe. We watch for the crowd that sings their heart out even when their hero is falling. Alexander EALA and Alicia Parks gave us a show today. One moves on, one goes home, but both prove they are fighters. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Question of the day. Do you think Alicia Parks can upset Karolina Muchova in the next round with this serving performance? And for the EALA fans, what is the one thing Alex needs to improve to close out matches like this in the future? Is it the serve? Is it the aggression? Let me know your thoughts. We will be covering the Australian Open daily, with deep dives just like this one. If you enjoyed this breakdown, if you appreciate the depth and the passion, please make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And subscribe so you don't miss the update when we cover the next shock result. The Australian Open is just getting started. The heat is on. The drama is real. And we will be here for every single point. Signing off. Stay watching, stay passionate, and I'll see you in the next one.